Welcome to this MOOC on Development Economics 2. And now we are in the unit Demography and Development. And today's lecture is Module 8 and the topic is Gender Bias Part 2. So, to start with, let us start with a quick recap of what we have done so far. We have started with basic ideas and definitions of demography. So these definitions are such as, for example, total fertility rate, birth rate, death rate, total fertility rate, such definitions and basic ideas, and how demographic issues are interrelated with the idea of development. What are the features of underdevelopment, etc. After that, we have discussed about the concept of age structure, how it varies in different countries, how it evolved over time. For this, we have used the concept of population pyramid, and we have taken various country studies such as countries like Japan, China, India. So we have touched upon this debate on population growth and how to view and how to understand this debate. And next we have talked about Malthusian population trap. So there we have discussed economy-wide population growth and income growth, etc., and why population growth is high in developing countries, things like this we have discussed. Next, we have entered into the area of gender bias. In the last lecture, we have started the concept of gender bias. That was the part 1 on gender bias, where we have discussed gender equality, gender equity, various dimensions about gender equality, and then missing woman mystery and sun meta preference. Now, in this lecture, what we learned? This lecture is also in continuation to what we were doing in the Malthusian population trap. So, Malthusian population trap was about economy-wide phenomenon, and it discussed the macro issues of population growth, income growth, etc. But recent researchers have pointed out that we have to focus on micro aspects also, how household fertility decisions are made, right? So for that, we have to understand microeconomic theory of fertility. We are going to first try to understand how to apply microeconomic theory. We'll revise a bit of microeconomic theory of consumer behavior. Then we will do the model on microeconomic theory of fertility, and then we'll try to connect it with the gender issues, and at last we'll discuss several policy options. Now, so before we proceed, there are some terminologies. Let us cover these terminologies. It will help us in understand the concepts better, right? So in the glossary, first of all, we have indifference curves. So indifference curve, an indifference curve basically represent all combinations of market baskets that provide a consumer with the same level of satisfaction. Indifference map is nothing but a collection of many indifference curves. Budget constant is the constraint faced by the consumer as due to limited income. Utility function is the formula that assigns a level of utility to individual market baskets. Utility refers to the satisfaction a consumer can derive by consuming amounts of different levels of different commodities. By consuming different commodities, how much satisfaction a consumer can derive, that is understood by the term utility. Consumer equilibrium occurs where budget line becomes tangent to an indifference curve, attaining highest possible indifference curve subject to budget constraint. So now we are going to discuss the microeconomic theory. Before going there, let us take the first question, that is, what is a normal good? goods are basically those goods for which demand rises as income rises, right? So please try to understand, consumer demand depends on many things. One very important determinant of consumer demand is income. Another is own price of that good. Another is price of related commodities. Another factor is taste, consumers' tastes and preferences, right? Now, the microeconomic theory. So, to understand the microeconomic theory of consumer behavior, so first, we need to understand a few tools. So, first tool is indifference curve. This is a graph of indifference map, and it is a collection of different indifference curves. So, in an indifference curve, at each and every point, utility level remains same. This U1, U2, U3, these are different utility levels, and in one indifference curve, at each and every point, this utility level remains same. But what varies? Amounts of commodity, that varies, right? Quantities of different commodities consumed, that will vary, but utility level will remain same. And also remember, as we move towards the northeast direction in the indifference map, so here remember U3 is greater than U3, greater than U2, greater than U1. As we move towards the northeast direction, so those higher indifference curves in that direction are representing higher level of utility, right? And what is the objective of the consumer? A consumer's objective is to maximize utility consumption, right? A consumer will always want to attain higher and higher indifference curve in the northeast direction, right? Now, let us talk about the second tool that is very important in our theory of consumer behavior, that is the case of budget line, budget constraint or budget line. Now, we have already said that a consumer, what is the objective of a consumer? To attain, to maximize utility or to attain highest possible level of indifference curve. But there is a constraint. Even if consumer wants, that may not happen, because consumer would face the problem or constraint of budget. So that's why the budget constraint, and budget constraint will be important. Budget constraint is coming from the available income of the consumer. According to this diagram, in the x-axis we have represented food, and in the y-axis we have represented clothing, right? So, and the PF is the price of food per unit of food, and PC is the price of clothing. So, M is equal to PF into F plus PC into C would be the equation of budget line. So, budget line, from that equation we know that the budget line is a straight line. It is a downward straight line, and the slope of the budget line is the relative price, PF by PC. The slope is PF by PC. If income changes, right? If income, there are three budget lines in the figure, L1, L2 and L3. So we are starting with L1, and as income rises, budget line shifts towards rightward or outward direction to L2, right? So L1 is representing the budget or income of $80, L2 is representing $160, L3 is representing $40. So L1 to L2 means income is rising and budget line is shifting towards the rightward direction or outward direction. As income rises, budget line shifts towards right. As income falls, budget line shifts towards left. Okay. Again, another important factor is effects of a change in price on the budget line. If price change, then what happens to budget line? There will be no shift of budget line, there will be rotation of budget line, right? So price change means PF by PC changes. if PF by PC changes, right, then, so again starting from L1, L2, L3, so as the price of food rises, right, as price of food PF is equal to 1 for L1. So as price of food rises, let's say we are keeping the PC or price of clothing constant. So PF by PC is the slope of budget line, right? Now if you keep the PC, price of clothing, constant, and if you increase price of food, then what will happen? PF by PC, the entire ratio will increase. As a result, budget line will become steeper, right? And budget line will rotate towards origin, towards the left side. So as PF by PC rises, budget line rotates towards the origin, towards the left side, and as PF by PC falls, the budget line rotates towards the right side, right, in the outward direction, right? So PF by PC is the slope of the budget line, and as it changes, rotation of budget line happens. Now, what is the consumer equilibrium? Consumer equilibrium is the maximizing of consumer satisfaction. So where is it happening? It is happening at point A, in which the budget line is the tangent of an indifference curve representing U2 level of utility, right? At point A, budget line is the tangent of an indifference curve. It implies that the consumer is spending all its income, consumer is spending all his income and attaining the highest possible indifference curve, and that is why the budget line has become the tangent of that indifference curve, right? So next question here is that what is a demand function? With this question, let us enter to our application of this theory to the fertility choice model. In the application of this theory to fertility analysis, children are considered as a special kind of consumption good, so that fertility becomes a rational economic response to the consumers or families' demand for children relative to other goods. The usual income and substitution effects are assumed to apply. So here, when we say demand function, here in the fertility choice theory, we are saying the demand CD or C is the demand for children, for a family, and it depends on many things, such as price of children or cost of raising children, price of other commodities, tastes and preferences, etc. If other factors are held constant, the desired number of children can be expected to vary. So the relationship is like this. The desired number of children varies directly with household income, inversely with the price or cost of children, and inversely with the strength of taste for other goods relative to children. So this is the demand function. CD is equal to function of Y. Y means income. PC means price of children or cost of raising children. PX is the price of all other goods. TX is the test for other goods. So what is the relationship here? Using the notion of derivatives, we can say that del CD del Y greater than 0, which is a direct relationship. It means if income rises, demand for children would also increase. Del CD del PC less than 0, it means as cost of raising children increases, demand for children decreases. Inverse relationship. Once again, del CD del PX greater than 0. The higher the prices of all other goods relative to children, the greater the quantity of children demanded. Del CD del TX less than 0, which is also an inverse relationship. The greater the strength of tastes for goods relative to children, the fewer children demanded. So now here is the main graph for the model about the fertility choice. Let us focus on this diagram. So you can observe that this diagram is also similar to the earlier diagram of consumer equilibrium, right? So here there is an indifference map and there are budget lines, right? And if you focus at point G, you can observe that an equilibrium is happening at point G and point F also. So first let us focus at point F on the budget line AB, and as per the indifference curve I2, if you focus at point F, there you can observe a consumer equilibrium. In the x-axis here we are measuring number of children desired, and in the y-axis goods consumed by parents. The household's ability to purchase alternative combinations of goods and children is shown by the budget constant line AB. Now, diagrammatically, please focus that the optimal combination is represented by point F. This is the tangency point between the budget constant AB and the indifference curve I2. Therefore, according to the point F, equilibrium point F, C3 children and G2 goods will be demanded. Now, we will consider here three interesting cases. Case 1. What is the case 1? A rise in family income represented by the parallel outward shift of the budget line enables the household to attain a higher level of satisfaction at point H on curve I4 by consuming more of both commodities. That is, if children, like most commodities, are assumed to be normal goods means demand for them rises with income, right? So case 1 is about rise in income, and that equilibrium is happening at point H, right? Now we are going to discuss case 2. Case 2 is about an increase in the price or opportunity cost of children. Price of children means cost of raising children relative to other goods will cause households to substitute commodities for children. Other factors being constant, a rise in the relative price of children causes the household utility maximizing consumption combination to occur on a lower indifference curve, as shown by the movement of the equilibrium point from F to E. Final equilibrium point is occurring at point E with lower number of children, right? And then finally the case 3. Finally the case 3 is about that if there is a simultaneous increase in household income and net child price as a result of, say, expanding female employment opportunities and a rise in wages coupled with a tax on children beyond a certain number per family. There will be both an outward shift and downward rotation of the budget constant line to, say, dashed line CD. So for the case 3, please focus on the budget line CD. So there is a parallel outward shift as well as rotation. So the result is a new utility maximizing combination that includes fewer children per family, point G compared with point F. So now if you focus finally at point G and compare it with point F, you can observe that lesser number of children is desired here at point G, but higher indifference curve has been attained. So higher welfare for the family and lower number of children. That is the specialty about the case 3. Now the finding, it implies higher levels of living for low income families in combination with a relative increase in the price of children will motivate households to have fewer children while still improving their welfare. So on the one hand, income is rising as well as the cost of raising children is also rising, and the household is attaining a higher indifference curve and and raising its welfare. This is just one example of how the economic theory of fertility can shed light on the relationship between economic development and population growth, as well as suggest possible lines of policy. Now, next question is, what are the policy options we can think of? So, what are the policy options? It follows that one way to induce families to desire fewer children is to raise the price of child rearing by, say, providing greater educational opportunities and a wide range of higher paying jobs for young women. So, what are the policy options? Birth rates among the very poor are likely to fall where the following socio-economic changes happen. So, following socio-economic changes are important. Number one, an increase in the education of women and a consequent change in their role and status. Number two, an increase in female non-agricultural wage employment opportunities, which raises the price or cost of their traditional child rearing activities. Number three, a rise in family income levels through the increased direct employment and earnings of a husband and wife, or through the redistribution of income and assets from rich to poor. Number four, a reduction in infant mortality through expanded public health programs and better nutritional status for both mother and child and better medical care. Number 5 and 6. 5 is the development of old age and other social security systems outside the extended family network to lessen the economic dependence of parents, especially women, on their offspring. Number 6, expanded schooling opportunities so that parents can better substitute child quality for large numbers of children. So better schooling opportunities so that parents can have good quality children but less number of children. So final points are: women often bear the disproportionate burdens of poverty, poor education and limited social mobility. Their inferior roles, low status and restricted access to birth control are manifested in their high fertility. According to this argument, population growth is a natural outcome of women's lack of economic opportunity. If women's health, education, and economic well-being are improved along with their role and status in both the family and the community, this empowerment of women will inevitably lead to smaller families and lower population growth. So, some of the take-home points. So, here we have applied microeconomic theory of consumer behavior, and then we have studied the microeconomic theory of fertility choice, and then we have discussed a few policy options. Thank you.